I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life. I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning. Remember that nothing worth doing is ever easy. You'll have bad moments. You gotta love what you're doing. And if you don't, just do something else. So many people that have really hit big have gone against the tide. But you have to have great confidence in yourself. You have to be the right person. There are very few people that can pull it off. But when you pull it off, it's great.
The harder you work, the luckier you get. And I can tell you 10 instances where I didn't quit. If I didn't work really hard, I probably would not, almost definitely would not be here today, unless you had me up as a man who at one point was successful, but let's see what a loser looks like. So you have to work hard, because it is true, you can develop luck through hard work.
Having a mentor makes a big difference in life. Now, you have to look around who's somebody that you aspire to be or to be like. But having a mentor, it's really just a wonderful thing if you can have a mentor. I've watched some of the people grow. I've watched some of the most incredible, brilliant students. And they didn't make it like other people made it because they didn't have that drive. They didn't have that never give up ability. I don't know if it's an ability or if you have it, just you can't quit. And I've seen people quitting. And if they would have held out longer, they would have been successful. I've seen it so much. I've seen some of the most brilliant people in the world that never made it because they were quitters. They just couldn't take it. They couldn't whatever. You have to get through those artificial barriers. I call them artificial barriers because you can do something about it until it's too late. Once it's in your system, it's very hard to stop. My father was a worker. He loved to work. And he was happy. He was a happy man. He loved to work. He'd work on Saturdays. He'd work on Sundays. He just liked it. He'd go to church, but after church, he'd go and work. He'd go check a building that he was putting up in Brooklyn. You know, he was mostly in Brooklyn and Queens. And he just loved it. And I think more than anything else, not because of what he taught me lots of different things, but I watched him be a happy man and work until he was like literally 93. He was 93 years old when he died. And I said to myself, that's a pretty good formula, because I have a lot of friends, they take vacations for 6 weeks and 8 weeks and 3 months, and they're never happy. Sometimes in life, to be successful, oftentimes, most of the time, you have to follow your instincts. You have to follow your gut. You have to. Your parents may say wrong, your whoever may say wrong, but you have to do it. Now, speaking of that, you've got to love what you do. And I've seen so many instances where people with great talent went into things that they didn't love, and they failed. I've seen people that are super genius, but they don't have that gut feeling. They don't have that stick-to-itiveness, that never quit. And I've seen people that almost made it and failed because they couldn't go that extra mile. They couldn't do it. So you get something, you never, ever quit, never, ever give up. You know, when people ask me about success, I've just started thinking about it over the last couple of years because I've seen a lot of it. You have to have an ability to handle pressure because no matter how successful you are, I have many, many friends and enemies, a lot of enemies too, I don't care, but they're smart. I have a lot of enemies, and I've watched people and I've seen it. And people that can handle pressure can be entrepreneurs, can be successful. Now, I have some friends that are really, really smart, but they can't handle pressure. In which case, they should work for somebody, do great, and have a good life. There's nothing wrong with it. Because I almost think that's an instinctive thing, the ability to handle pressure. Now, one of the things I tell people about pressure is, you know what? They said, how do you handle pressure? Who's had more pressure than me? Ay, ay, ay. Have I had pressure over the years? You have to remember, it doesn't matter. God matters. Your family matters. But you can never give up
You can't necessarily say, I'm never giving up. You got to be able to weave and bob. You don't have to go through a concrete wall when you can go over it or around it or under it or something. You have to have flexibility. You have to always be able to change course a little bit, maybe always with that same goal, but don't quit. One of the things about loving what you do is that it's not work, and therefore you don't quit automatically. It's a lot easier not to quit.
I would always say study something that can help you after you get out of college. I mean, I see so many students studying things that will never, ever let them lead a life where they can support a family, where they can support their children and their education and health care and all of those things. And I want to tell them, don't do it, but at the same time, if they love it, I always say you have to do what you love. In life, I always tell this to people, you have to know whether or not you continue to have the momentum. And if you don't have it, that's okay. Because you're going to go on, and you're going to learn, and you're going to do things that are great. But you have to know about the word momentum. But the big thing, never quit, never give up, do something you love. When you do something that you love, you'll never fail. What you're going to do is give it a shot again and again and again. You're ultimately going to be successful. And remember this, you're not working. Because when you're doing something that you love, like I do, it's not work. You have to find out what makes you excited, what makes you want to get up each morning and go to work. You have to find it.
Recently, somebody asked me the definition of entrepreneur. Now, it means a lot of different things. You have to have an idea, you have to never quit, you have to do a lot of different things. But something I've added over the course of the last few years, you have to be able to withstand pressure. I know a lot of people that are very smart, that have great ideas, everything's good, but they can't handle pressure. And if you can't handle pressure, you cannot be a great entrepreneur.
You've got to love what you do. You've got to work hard. Never, ever quit. Never, ever give up, because that's the other thing.
We're on this planet for a very, very small period of time, and achievement is something that really gives you great pleasure. And when you achieve something, that's great, but now on to the next. Very important, you keep going.